What's going on, guys? It is Laser here with another weekend video analysis. It is not almost 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning. The market is closed, and I'm here to share where I see the stock going when the market opens up and for the rest of the week. That's what we do here once per week. We like to just give our commentary and our opinions as to where we see the stock going. Before I begin, there's a few things I want to address. Some of you guys might notice that I sound a little different. I'm actually just making this video recording on my laptop. So I'm not at home, not in front of my setup, but I did want to get this video out for this morning. Number two, given that NIO is probably catching a lot of attention from investors, there's probably a lot of newer retail investors are joining in. Actually, they're probably noticing NIO is having an awesome rally. Probably a lot of new people here. So I want to first off say welcome. Thank you for joining in. We do videos once per week. We don't just look at NIO. We also like to look at Baba. We like to look at the Seng index, which we're going to do today. And we also like to look at the Dixie. So we're going to kind of cover all of those to try and look at different puzzle pieces to really piece it together to truly get a bit bigger and better picture where we can maybe see NIO going. I want to also address for the people who have watched my last week's video that I did get the last week's analysis wrong, where I was anticipating a bigger drop. This was, I was anticipating a drop lower, and there were some people who actually came up to me and said, no way, you're going to get that wrong. Got that wrong, Laser. And, I never disagreed with them, and I never am going to disagree with them. It's going to tell me, like, there's no way, no one's 100%. And everyone's going to get their analysis wrong at some point in time. If anyone tells you they've got 100% like hit rate on the stock market, I'd like to know who that is, actually, because there ain't nobody who's 100%, unless you're an insider, is ever going to know. But we try and do here, and maybe some of you are asking, well, what's the point of even TA if you can't predict it? Is we're trying to get some hints and trying of and have some sort of edge against the market instead of guessing. And we do that here by actually analyzing the speed and velocity of the move. So I have a little indicator here. We're going to actually dive into that very, very shortly. This measures how fast some of these are happening. And sometimes the price is making higher highs while the velocity is making lower lows, vice versa. Or the price is making lower lows, but the velocity is making higher highs. And you get what's called a divergence. And this is giving us these hints as to where. So we will at some point in time touch upon this, but I want to address where I got things wrong. I basically wrote off this as kind of like your pullback. I kind of looked at like this. I thought it was forming a much bigger pullback. And that was a mistake. This was, in hindsight, is 2020. So easy to go back and say, like, yeah, how obvious was that? Like, that was a pullback. I mean, you even had like another, but this was a very obvious pullback where it went up to as high as 522 and it went down to 5. And there were some people who nailed that and called that right. So congratulations if you got that right. I definitely didn't see that. I thought it would have gone a little bit lower, but I did give a disclaimer. I said, any dip you can get your hands on. Those were my words from last week. Any dip you can get your hands on, this thing is going to fly. And I've always said 550 plus because that was a major level, and it literally just blasted past it. 596, it's had a little checkpoint right there at 596, little tap back, and it blasted above that. So what's the next Fibonacci level? It's $8.00. And if I were to look back to the left, you can actually see why that's significant. It is a very significant level. So here we are now today. And I look back. I have some scribbles, so I'm going to scratch out some of the scribbles. This thing from top to bottom, all that the bottom, it's risen 96%, almost as high as like the rally from last year. I think all of us can agree the momentum is fantastic. That candle looks great. It's a nice bullish candle, 16% green candle. We don't have any wicks or showing any signs of down. Now, there's another tool that we have. I've shared it actually in this week on Twitter. So if you're not already following me on Twitter, make sure you're following me on Twitter. I do like to post and updates throughout the week. I'm going to take the bottom to the top. bottom, it measures kind of big levels. Let's actually extend that right to the right so it's easier for you guys to see. So some big levels in between 634, which we're above right now. In post-market, it went to 645. The next biggest level is $6.07. Now I'm going to point out something very interesting. Okay, so this ended up being a 127% move. What that means, if you guys don't know what that means, is if it actually runs up, and let's just say it taps 687. What does 127% means? That means that it actually is 127%. The 100% move. So if it was an equal move, it would have been 634. We've already gone above that. And given the momentum, I think it's fair to assume we're about to come into 687 into next week and test that, which is 107%. Now, I'm going to take you guys back about a year. So I'm going to go and make this is erased, so it's a little bit nice and tidy. We're going to tidy up our chart, nice and clean. I want to take you back to the left just for a second, because I always go back to the left because I'm not just looking at any rally. I don't want to look at short rallies because I don't think that none of them are comparable, or even these short rallies. I'm going back to this one, which was last year. That was the last 100 rally, and it was actually the only rally that broke above $6. Actually, every other one kind of got rejected. So it's a very unique rally, and it had a very similar. Now I know this setup, and there's some people maybe rolling their eyes. I know this setup is different because, and I see the posts. There are people saying like, this one's different. It's breaking out of like a 5-year downtrend on the log scale. Okay, so I've seen that, and I get that, and I understand that, but I don't know if I want to address that just yet. Let's try and just focus for a second. I'm going to use this tool down to that bottom. I'm going to measure right to that top here, and we'll notice that this rally, when it topped, it gave you a move, gave you a bull flag, and reached 127%, which is where it stopped. Again, actually, I'll extend this to the right so we can see them both at the same time. Again, side by side. This is actually going to really help you guys visualize this. See this side? If it were to just be a deja vu and a repeat, the equivalent would be $6.08. Now, it doesn't have to be deja vu. It doesn't have to stop there, but it's something we're going to keep our eye on. There's other things we'll also keep our eye on. The velocity, which we're not talking about yet, but we will be talking about. 682, I want higher. Honestly, I don't think that's going to cut it for the crowd and the folks that are long-term investors that want to see NIO make its journey and its trek back to all-time high, and to make its parabolic curve, and to start moving all the way up. It needs to go higher. It needs to break out higher. 682, unfortunately, will not, for me, and I'm kind of fixating on this. There's a real honest shot in it. Let me clear up the chart. When my chart gets messy and it looks messy to me, then I'm betting it looks messy to you. I'm really banking on. Let me make sure this is centered so you guys can see it better. Minimize this for now. I'm really banking on this because I think this is what I'm really hoping for. What would be fantastic is seeing it clear the high, break that high, and hey, let's give it a little test at 840. Have it at 840. It might be like 838. I think that's sense. And this would give you this really giant cup. Say, for instance, it does this. I'm going to try and draw that out for you. See it. It's up, comes down. I know a lot of you guys know this pattern. It's pretty obvious, and that's why I'm kind of fixating on it. But this is a cup and handle. It's a very famous and popular, very bullish price action. And if we get this, which I mean, you're going to expect a hell back. If we get that, and oh man, this thing is looking a lot and on its way back. Now, if we don't get that, it just kind of it's not the end of the world if we don't. Like this rally is absolutely tremendous, but it's gonna make me think if it stops out at $6.80. It's going to make me think, is it going to hold at this 596 level or is it going to hold at 550? That's very important. You need to flip this level to support. And I do believe at some point in time, when this rally is over, it will come back down. You will get that big pullback. But first, it might want to try and clear that. So that's the price. Now, if I were to go into open up velocity, and I were to compare this to last year's. Last year's rally was more explosive. It happened in a shorter. Now, I understand that the reason why this is actually taking longer, is that it's go bigger scale. This is what a lot are doing here. Bigger time. This is the chart that everybody's talking about on Twitter. I'm just going to erase everything here. Let's just make this clean. This is the chart that I've seen everybody talk about it. Taking a line here, out here. Is that right? How did they? Okay, what's supposed to look? So they've taken it like from here. Is how they've done. I'm not sure how they've done it. This is the line that I'm saying. People are saying like, oh, this is different. This time, it's absolutely different because it's breaking out of this, and this is what this is the chart that I've seen a lot. And I see that, and you know what? They're not wrong, and I'm not here to actually tell. But my only thing is, and I know this is the case for all. So this is how I've learned. You don't have to draw. The way I learned to draw trend lines is you take the top 2 points. The top 2 points would be 1. That would be 2. Did it like that. Want that true breakout? That's gonna be. That takes you right around 9. Did I even do that right? Because we're traveling a long distance here. That looks pretty darn. It's nailing those wicks. I didn't use the magnet tool, which might have actually adjusted it. But you'll notice now that we have this, what we're seeing on Twitter was that you kind of have like this $9 and $10, and that's not bad either. But for me, for this thing to break out, and even if I were to go like down a bit, let's just say I wanted to line it up. Now we've got so many touches here. It's still not above that. Man, oh man, isn't that funny? Up there, right around that $7 and $6 and 90 cents and 80 cents. That's where you're kind of getting to that point. Now I'm very, very bullish, but there are things that make me question and ask where that top is. When I compare, and I'm looking here now at that velocity, you'll notice this last rally made higher. Now, I want to dive into the 4-hour time, which is very, very important because it allows us, we'll even do the 2 hours. I think 2 hours. So again, we're going to compare and try and actually figure this out. So if I go here to the 2-hour time frame, you will see that I want to point out too, this is where we want to actually watch for. It made a lower high here. See that yellow line? That yellow line, for those of you who don't know, is like average. And it's measuring, it ended up making a lower high despite the velocity making a high. Now, if we take a look at the current and the present, and we talked about this. This bull flag, this was the bull flag. This whole, when it pulled down here and made the bull flag, that next move. This was our whole bull flag, and now it gave us our next move. There's so many similarities. Now, I get it. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit more, in my opinion, it's a little bit more powerful, this move. So it's looking great. But what I'm going to be watching for is if at some point in time, maybe it gets to this, because the next big Fibonacci zone, and maybe some of you guys forget, draw that out again for the, and I kind of forget what the exact number. So we'll just approximately 685. If it goes to 685 and decides to want to watch for something like this forming, if it decides to kind of get down, decides to break down, this could be your potential cool off period. And if you're new into NIO, I've talked about this in older videos. Oh my God, my battery's freaking low. I'm gonna have to make it's up way shorter. Oh, wait, no, I've got a plug here. Right from the get-go. Plugged in. We're good. We're good. But if you're new here, NIO has history since that cycle. Noticed it. And I won't go do a deep dive. You can, for videos, you're going to have to go back maybe a month or 2 months and watch some of my older videos. But I do talk about the cycles. Every 3 or every 4 months, after a rally is complete, NIO cools off between 3. Like clockwork. Like clockwork. It takes 3 to 4 months. And if we're to look even here, days, here it was like 100. It was almost between 3 and 4 months. That was the cool off period. Cooled off. And that is, and there's very rare times you'll see 5 months, but it's been happening since IPO. And this is what I'm looking for. And so there's so much momentum. I think there's a very solid shot next week. We're going to touch 685. I'm not so confident that might out above that. Maybe it'll poke its head. I mean, 7's a big psychological level. It's a big level probably for options as well. And 7 is also where I kind of drew out that line. Ultimately, I really want it to get above 777. Perhaps it just shoots up. You get that big poof. But like it's unless you're getting a complete and honest short squeeze and it just keeps going, at some point this rally is going to stop. And the last rally, by the way, which there's so many similarities, it topped out at the 127%. Now it doesn't have to. That clear. But we're not in the clear when I look at the 2-hour time frame, and I'm going to clear out my chart. I'm going to erase everything here. I look at the 2-hour chart. Despite the velocity making a higher high, and it did so here as well. Eventually, when it dropped, and it dropped quite quickly, it made a lower high, and it gave you that cool-off period, and then it gave you that short rally. I mean, I'm not going to say it's going to play out the same, but things to look at. So far, I haven't seen it yet, and the momentum, I think, is so powerful. There's no reason not to believe not going to at least get 684. That's what I'm thinking, and that's how I see it. And if it breaks that, I mean, again, that big level, perhaps it just wants to go to 840. Right? That's that big level. I don't know for sure. Now, I did want to bring your attention to one thing before I moved off NIO, so we can keep this video not too long. But I'm going to go back to a regular scale. I've talked about this in I've talked about this a bunch, but I haven't talked about it in a while, and it's worth for all the people who have been watching over a week. For those of you that are, this is more important if you're a long-term investor. If you take a peek here and you draw from the absolute bottom, and I'm going to use a magnet just to make a point, show you how accurate I'm getting. The absolute bottom. And if I were to go to the absolute top here, and the magnet tool is awesome for this, by the way, we'll notice this was its original channel. This was its original channel that started from IPO. It's broken below that. And you'll notice before it had its breakdown, it retested that. And now it looks to be rising back up towards the direction, coming for that retest. Now, here's something interesting. Doing some charting and messing around with this. This is just on the I noticed not a lot of people will use just a regular scale. It's important to analyze. Your first breakout. Now it's hard to draw it out, but if I were to draw it out like this, say like, okay, it stayed below this trend line this entire time. It's finally broken. It's broken out of that. Is it ready? Is that where it's going to go? Is towards 1350? Now, mind you, a run up into 1350 and a break above that, truly, I believe truly, if it comes up in here, truly opens the doors for like a complete parallel trajectory all the way up into like 8. This is probably going to make a lot of long-term investors happy with me saying that, and the upside is truly tremendous when it comes to NIO. So I wanted to share this chart, and I'm going to quickly back. I'm going to show you where this has played out. Bitcoin. I've shared this before, but I'm going to show this to you again. If you were to draw out this original channel, it was around the similar timeline, around 2019, and it broke under. It came up for a retest, which would have been, this is like, imagine $13 for NIO. Came back up, and it came back to the top, which is the resistance, which this is around 70. This would be 70. Now notice what Bitcoin is doing. It's now broken out of this channel. You can stack it. This is where I believe a lot of people are getting that 160, 170, depending on how long it takes and rallies. You'll notice it's basically it's consolidating. It's getting ready to make a big move. I'm fully bullish on, and so I go back to NIO to kind of show you that chart, and that is a very likely possibility. 1340. But if it's going to go there, it's not going to do it all in one shot. Now, a lot of people, I like to look at Palantir. Palantir, even though it didn't have as long of a downtrend, it had a very interesting interesting setup where it took a while. And when it finally went, it decided to go parabolic and take out the previous highs. And when it took out the previous highs, off it went. It went on this beautiful parabolic journey. Now I'm going to show you another example. I'm now seeing it happen in real time. It's happening now with SoFi. SoFi is right over here. And this one is now getting to go absolutely. I think like as soon as this goes high, SoFi will be another stock. But why not NIO? Why can't NIO do it? And I think there's a very real possibility for the fundamental, for the people pumping out content, YouTubers. A big shout out to Aaron. He's given me a couple shout outs and he puts out some awesome content. But the people that are putting out really good fundamental analysis, the thesis is that once NIO becomes super profitable, like my understanding is like this thing will become a powerhouse. So you can definitely make an argument, a case for this thing to go back to all nice. Not my forte, not something I specialize in. I'm just looking here at strictly the velocity. And so it's important, very important to when you're watching, analyzing NIO. I am studying this last rally here. So to recap, before I jump into Baba, I do believe a level that you're going to want to look out for is going to be that $6.80 zone. I forget what it was. It was like 684. Very important level. And I'll just run that 201 last time because I forget. There it was. Now it's showing 679 because I didn't do it like it's very sensitive. If I don't get it right down to the right amount, it's going to change those values. It's measuring 681. Okay. I think next week you're going to get to 681. And if it can get above that, wow. Wow. Like, hey, possible. But I do see size a lot. I do see a lot of similarities from this rally into that rally. This rally did 127%. It did a little bit over that. So the close is going to be really, really important. Want to wait if it goes above. Okay. That's all I could share with you. If I were to go into Baba, and this is one thing we do look at, Baba has been trading within this channel since looks like a long time, but hourly here. But if I go here, it is absolutely getting ready to go. I mean, you can probably draw out this, and I haven't done this yet, but if I were to draw this out, that looks freaking beautiful. And so I'm still bullish on Baba. Now, Baba, by the way, when I look at the velocity, it's made a higher high. It made a higher high on the 200-day moving average. Now, it's doing something interesting where it has not. It's kind of almost. It's giving you a much more long consolidation period, and we saw that. We saw what happened in NIO when you got that longer consolidation period. I think Baba's still in that. But once Baba goes, Baba tends to go parabolic very quickly. And what would make the most sense for me is not 140, but up into 180. And I know some people have even some bigger targets, but this is just the short term, actually. Baba, I absolutely love this name. And I think it's getting ready. And when I look at that, it's definitely, it looks great. Looks positive, looks healthy. Patience. Just like in NIO, how everybody who was waiting throughout this bull flag needed to be Baba. You're going to want to be patient. And I do believe it's getting ready. You can just see where it was just bouncing off that middle channel. Wants to come in at the very least into 140, break above, which would be very, very classic, typical. And if we were to measure that move, because I think it's making higher highs, for those of you that are in Baba, you're 100%. Just if it does a minimum, at minimum 100% is 163 and 182. Look where I had that drawn, 183. And if it wants to break above, I mean, sure, let's see it potentially break above. Let's watch it, okay? Baba looks great, fantastic. We're gonna go into the Hang Seng index. This is the Chinese index. For those of you who are new to NIO and don't realize this, but this actually plays a significant to where NIO is actually heading in. Actually, not so much recently, but it does play a big role, and Baba as well. I mean, if Hang Seng was to start all of a sudden pull back significantly, that is something that would actually add to a negative pressure actually on NIO, and it's just been so good. It was chopping above the midline here, and it's finally holding that midline, showing strength. And from a velocity perspective, I don't remember the last time. Oops, I'm going to go back to the hang. Accidentally. From a velocity perspective, I don't remember the last time that I saw the Hang Seng index chop like this. Something big has to be down the pipeline. And if this is going to make a top, and if it were to make a top, that top's now, to draw that out, is right around 26, 27. If it were to. it. I don't think you get this big choppiness without like that nice big blow off the top. And the interesting thing, China and Bitcoin, both of those two names, they end up trading very, very similar. So if when Bitcoin made this really big move, by the way, so did China, so did NIO. Now, if Bitcoin all of a sudden starts going wild, going crazy, and it wants to start making its big move into like 170, maybe it might want to go 40 and cool off. I can see China following suit with, because they've been correlating quite a bit lately. I haven't seen anything significant. It's chopping up quite a bit, but it's looking quite healthy just on the chart. When I go into the Dixie, man, oh man, is it ever chopping. And the way I see it, you can make an argument or a case that the Dixie might want to drop to 92 before it decides to, recover and bounce back. It's been in this really tough chop zone. Probably the longest that I've ever seen the US dollar chop in this very tight range. It's been between 107, so within the point range. And it's usually been a lot more volatile. So 99 up. So you got a 6 point up, 6 point move down. Even here, this was probably the longest duration where it chopped for the 100 to 102. Did that for, let's measure how long that was. About 40 days. Whereas now it's been in this zone for 120 days. That is a very long. But it can happen. This zone is 160 days, 140 days. So I've always had this predicted that eventually you're going to make that big move up to not only, which right now would be 2, but would make its move to 107 potentially. And at some point in time, guys, we're going to get a major correction. The SPY at all-time high, which we're not about in Qs and IWMs, at some point in time. When that happens, I think the Dixie will actually follow suit. Whole global. But I'm in the ball. I think you're either in the, oh my God, this is a big trap and it's going to be a crash coming up, or you're in the ballpark of we're going to get the blow off the top, off everything. Memes are going to go, Bitcoin's going to go, China's going to go, and the camp that I'm in the blow off the top. I think that is totally. There's enough people in the market who are calling for a crash or saying it's overextended and this is it. And I don't think that's the case. I think we are going to get that first. Everything I think is going to, which is going to bode well for NIO. And I think NIO is a super exciting name, but please keep an eye on $6.00. I think that's going to be a major level. That's it. I think that sums up my analysis. I will say one last thing before I wrap things up actually here. I'm almost done this video. Watched all the way up until the end. Thank you for watching the video, but and watching throughout the whole video. But I'll say this one thing. When the rally was over, it broke back below the 200-day moving average, 2-hour time. So if you're following me on Twitter, I'll be sure to point that out. That's usually a really good signal, like the momentum is shifting and it's getting ready to cool off. We're nowhere near breaking that, and it's making higher highs. But at some point in time, guys, it will break. At some point in time, it will. It's totally unrealistic just to think this thing's just going to go in a straight line and it won't stop. Like that's just not how it works. I would love to see it happen, but it doesn't even happen in crypto. It doesn't happen in anything. The closest thing that I've seen ever happen to was GameStop. Kind of had that squeeze, but even then it was up and downs. Go straight up. That's it. If this was your first time watching, thank you so much if you're joining in and watching. Don't forget to follow, hit the subscribe button, smash a thumbs up button if you like this. Really awesome week for NIO. I'll be watching it again next week. I will be tweeting it, so don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Thank you so much. for everybody who's been following me all along and supporting my analysis and dropping comments. I see it all. And if you have any questions, if I missed anything and you have any questions, drop it in the comment section below. I'll do my best to actually get around to it this weekend and answering that. That is it. That is all. I hope you guys all go out and have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you guys on Twitter on Monday. Cheers.